Today is Friday, June 27th. We'll tell you about rulings coming today for some of the Supreme Court's biggest cases of the year. Also, senators were finally briefed on the U.S. attacking Iran, and there's apparently progress in trade negotiations. Plus, why gas prices are getting lower, what the new vaccine advisors decided about RSV and flu shots, and which fashion icon is stepping aside after 4 decades. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in about 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Lacey Evans, filling in for Erica Mandy today. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Today is the final day of the U.S. Supreme Court's term, and there are still several high-profile cases left to decide, or at least to announce the decisions on. The most significant decision is likely the one dealing with President Trump's order to limit birthright citizenship. There's also a challenge from religious parents who want to opt their children out of reading LGBTQ books in school. And there's a suit over a Texas law that says people need to verify their age before seeing porn online, plus 3 others. So expect some major decisions to be announced today. Just yesterday, the Supreme Court handed down a decision that lets states cut off support for Planned Parenthood. Specifically, the ruling says Planned Parenthood can't sue South Carolina over its effort to deny the group Medicaid funding for non-abortion medical services. All 6 conservative-leaning justices allowed it, siding with the state that said taxpayers shouldn't be forced to subsidize abortion providers, even in cases where the providers are offering other services. All 3 of the more liberal justices opposed the ruling, though, saying it takes away people's freedom to choose their own medical provider. Either way, this decision could now make it easier for other states to follow South Carolina's lead, and several are expected to do so. We're getting the most detailed descriptions yet of the planning and execution of America's attack on Iranian nuclear facilities. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said it took 15 years of planning to execute the strikes, specifically meant for Iran. They were carried out by pilots in 7 B-2 bombers that launched 30,000-pound weapons. They were bombs designed to explode underground, ripping through open tunnels and destroying critical hardware. Several intelligence agencies in the U.S., Israel, and Europe are still trying to figure out exactly how much of the Iranian nuclear program has been damaged and what Iran will do next. Senators received a classified briefing last night, but when asked what they learned from it, the answers were different depending on political party. Many Republicans say they believe it will now take Iran years longer to build a nuclear weapon. Democrats are sticking to what a preliminary intelligence report said, that the U.S. strikes set Iran back by only months. The United Nations nuclear watchdog also has a new analysis, even though inspectors haven't been able to access the nuclear sites since the attack. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency says, given the power of the bombs dropped and the technical characteristics of the plant, there's no way the nuclear equipment is operational at this point. He wouldn't say exactly how far Iran's nuclear program had been set back, just that it's going to be tough for the country to continue at the same pace as before. House lawmakers will be briefed this morning. The U.S. and China have finalized an agreement that brings the world's 2 largest economies at least a little closer together on trade. It's not a comprehensive trade deal, but China did commit to delivering rare earth exports that are used in everything from wind turbines to jet planes. And the U.S. is lifting export restrictions on ethane. That's used to make plastic, chip software, and more. Meanwhile, the U.S. Commerce Secretary says the White House has plans to reach agreements with 10 more major trading partners soon. He didn't name the countries, but President Trump separately said the U.S. was nearing a deal with India. Trump's next deadline for reaching trade deals was supposed to be coming up in a couple of weeks, and Trump had threatened more than a dozen countries with steep tariffs if agreements weren't reached by then. But now, the White House says that deadline could get extended again, so stay tuned. People who live across the southeastern U.S. all saw the same thing above their heads yesterday. It was a glowing object that lit up the sky over several states, including South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. And when it hit the ground, a loud boom could be heard. Hundreds of people called authorities, and both law enforcement officials and scientists have been working to figure out what the mysterious object was. Well, as of last night, NASA declared it was a meteor traveling through the Earth's atmosphere at about 30,000 miles an hour, and it created a sonic boom that blared through the region. Specifically, it was a rarely seen daytime fireball, which is even brighter than the planet of Venus. And reports say this one was even brighter than a full moon. Thankfully, no one was reported hurt. More news is still coming up, but first, here's your main host, Erica Mandy, with a word about our sponsor.
You've already heard me talk about how much I love OneSkin's OS1 face and eye topical supplements and sunscreens. Now I want to tell you about their OS1 hair. This is an easy-to-use scalp serum that I like to use with OneSkin's Derma Roller for even better absorption. So why would a skincare company create a scalp treatment? Because the scalp is skin. And just like the rest of your body, it experiences cellular aging. But instead of wrinkles, it messes with your hair follicles and natural growth cycle. So whether it's on your face, body, or scalp, OneSkin's OS1 peptide works at the cellular level to improve key aging biomarkers while reducing the visible signs of aging. OneSkin believes the purpose of skincare is not just to improve how you look, but to optimize your skin's biology at the cellular level. Founded and led by an all-women team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is redefining the aging process with their proprietary OS1 peptide. Get 15% off with the code newsworthy at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with the code newsworthy. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. Invest in the health and longevity of your skin and scalp with OneSkin. Your future self will thank you.
Now, back to the news. This could be a good summer to take a road trip. Gas prices are now the lowest they've been in 4 years, even in the face of turmoil in the Middle East. Reports say traders at this point believe a tax might spare energy infrastructure and oil tankers. Plus, the group of oil-producing nations known as OPEC has been increasing production, and U.S. output is also near records. All of it is driving prices down. Right now, the national average for a gallon of regular gasoline is $3.21. That's about 23 cents cheaper than this time last year. With that, AAA expects travel for 4th of July next week to be record-breaking, and prices are expected to get even lower later this year. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s new vaccine advisory board has taken its first vote, and it's decided to recommend a shot that protects babies against RSV. The board agreed with the FDA that found it was safe and effective. It's now the second RSV monoclonal antibody of its kind on the market, and both are expected to be available for babies ahead of the RSV season this fall. Separately, the new panel voted to recommend flu vaccines for all Americans 6 months and older. That is, only if the vaccines don't include a certain preservative that's long been considered stable. The CDC has analyzed decades of evidence to determine the preservative is safe and not tied to conditions such as autism, but the panel apparently wasn't convinced, based on the presentation of one critic. Granted, it shouldn't have a huge impact because most flu shots are free of that preservative anyway. Remember, whatever the board decides could influence decisions about insurance coverage and what doctors tell their patients. 7 weeks and dozens of witnesses later, the trial against Sean Diddy Combs is finally wrapping up. Prosecutors gave their closing arguments yesterday, and the defense team is set to do the same today. Remember, the hip-hop mogul is accused of using his fame and fortune to run a decades-long scheme in which he allegedly assaulted and intimidated several people. Plus, there are allegations of kidnapping, drugging, coercing people into sexual activities, and more. During prosecutors' closing arguments yesterday, jurors got another look at photos of key figures from the case, as well as excerpts of testimony and evidence. The defense team insists Combs is not guilty of running a criminal enterprise, though his lawyers do say there was some domestic violence. Over the course of the trial, prosecutors brought 34 witnesses. Defense lawyers did some lengthy cross-examinations, but didn't call any witnesses of their own. Combs himself decided not to testify. After the defense team gets its final say tomorrow, the prosecutor will be able to give one more rebuttal. Then a jury will deliberate. If the jurors find him guilty, Combs could spend the rest of his life in prison. Vogue's iconic editor-in-chief has decided to leave the top job at the world's premier fashion magazine. It's seen as a major shift for the fashion industry, since Anna Wintour has been at the helm for nearly 4 decades. And during that time, she helped cement the magazine's place in a global culture. Now that she plans to step down, Vogue will be looking for a new head of editorial content as part of a different organizational structure. Wintour will stay on, but scale back her duties. She'll still oversee the large family of magazines magazines that exist under the Condé Nast brand, like Vogue, Vanity Fair, GQ, Glamour, and more. And whoever takes the top job at Vogue will be reporting directly to Wintour. So now the editor search is on. One of the largest and most famous music festivals in the world is now underway. The Glastonbury Festival's main lineup starts today. Tickets for this festival sold out in just 35 minutes. Headliners include the 1975, Charlie XCX, and Olivia Rodrigo, as well as some classics like Neil Young and Rod Stewart. Fans of 90s music will also have plenty to choose from, like Alanis Morissette, Busta Rhymes, and In Vogue. Plus, there's always speculation about secret shows that could pop up from A-list acts. More than 200,000 fans are set to be there. And for the rest of us, all of it will be streamed online, so you can watch from anywhere in the world. We have a link to the live stream in today's episode notes. That's it for the main news today, but now it's time for Feel Good Friday, where we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, Erica is back to tell you about our sponsor, Hiya Health.
One of the easiest and most consistent parts of my kiddo's morning routine is taking his Hiya Children's Vitamin. He loves the feeling of getting vitamins like mommy every morning, and he loves the taste too. I honestly thought the novelty of it would wear off eventually, but he's been taking these for 2 years now, and he's still loving and benefiting from both the children's vitamins and the probiotics. And I love that Hiya makes a super-powered chewable vitamin that is supporting his immune system, energy, brain function, teeth and bones, and more. And that, unlike many other children's vitamins, there's no sugar and no gummy junk. And by the way, if you're tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens, Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy. This deal is not available on their regular website. So go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults.
Now back to Feel Good Friday. Today, we're talking about a shelter dog who sprung into action with a skill no one knew she had. Sienna is a 3-year-old lab and pit bull mix who went to a recent adoption event. She was going from booth to booth, greeting different people until she saw a man she'd never met and fixated on him. She pulled the volunteer who was handling her leash, which is apparently not like her. She placed her paw on his leg and refused to leave no matter what. Well, that got the attention of the man's wife, who turned around and noticed something was wrong. Her husband apparently has epilepsy, and she could tell at that moment he had forgotten to take his morning medication. He looked like he was about to have a full seizure. Thankfully, she was able to get him home to get his medication. The man was okay, and the volunteer was baffled. Sienna had been rescued as a stray on the streets, and no one at the shelter knew she had any kind of training in seizure detection. When the shelter shared the story on Facebook, adoption requests flooded in, and one application stood out from a woman whose son has epilepsy. She and her family took Sienna home, and their new pet is apparently settling in well. The woman said, quote, "Sienna is filling holes in our hearts." Thank you so much for listening today. Erica will be back tomorrow with a special edition Saturday episode, diving a bit deeper into America's involvement in the Israel-Iran conflict. Then join us again Monday for your next daily news roundup. For now, thanks again for listening and have a great weekend.